TRADCAST Express. TRADCAST Express, it's Friday, March 7th, 2025. Is he dead? Is he alive? Is he improving? Is he getting worse? Is he stable? Confusion reigns over the state of 88-year-old Jorge Mario Bergoglio, more commonly known as Pope Francis, who has been at Rome's Gemelli Hospital since February 14th for double pneumonia. To this day, there have been no photos or videos of Francis since he was admitted, leading some to question whether he is even still alive. In an apparent effort to reassure people, Francis recorded a brief voice message yesterday, March 6th, and it was played for the people gathered in St. Peter's Square at yesterday evening's Rosary for Francis at the Vatican. Here is the recording as found on the Vatican News website. No changes made. Francis is speaking in Spanish.
Agradezco de todo corazón las oraciones que hacen por mi salud desde la plaza. Los acompaño desde acá. Que Dios los bendiga y que la Virgen cuide. Gracias.
Now, obviously, it is difficult to make out what he's saying, but of course, the Vatican has transcribed it for us, and in English, he said this, quote, "I thank you with all my heart for the prayers you offer for my health from the square." He's talking about St. Peter's Square. "I accompany you from here. May God bless you, and may the Virgin protect you. Thank you." Unquote. That is what Francis said in Spanish in the recording. Let's listen to it one more time.
Agradezco de todo corazón las oraciones que hacen por mi salud desde la plaza. Los acompaño desde acá. Que Dios los bendiga y que la Virgen cuide. Gracias.
Now, of course, some people have questioned whether that is really Bergoglio's voice. Even Michael Lofton said he isn't so sure. But in my opinion, yes, that is authentic. Whether it was indeed recorded on March 6th, as they said, or sometime before that, who knows? But I have no real reason to question what they're saying. At the same time, it does seem a bit odd that in this age of iPhones, YouTube, and Zoom meetings, they're releasing an audio recording, as if it were 1965. According to a report by katholisch.de, based on Vatican sources, it was Francis's own express wish that he record the audio for publication. And yes, it's understandable that the Vatican doesn't want to show their patient in a vulnerable condition, but, it's been 3 weeks now, and Francis is the one who for years has talked about the importance of including the sick and elderly and accepting their fragility, touching their wounds and all that. But we'll see. Maybe they'll release a video or photo in the near future, or maybe Francis will even come to the window of his hospital room like John Paul II did in 2005. In any case, assuming the audio to be an authentic recording of Bergoglio's voice, it's clear that he's in really bad shape. Italian pulmonologist Dr. Massimo Pistolesi analyzed the audio and said the following about it in an interview published today by Open.online. Quote, "It is the typical voice of a person with very severe breathlessness. It's clear that the Pope can't finish longer sentences or words without having to catch his breath. And this is a characteristic of people with a severe lack of oxygen. From a medical point of view, this voice has made a strong impact on me. If in a stable situation the Holy Father has this kind of difficulty, one can only imagine how serious the moments of worsening and crisis are." Unquote. And that was translated with an automatic translator. Yes, indeed. It does sound like Francis is in real trouble. And I'd say that all this gives one a bit of a different impression, I think, than what we've gotten from the Vatican press office in recent weeks about a patient who, yes, has serious health issues, but reads the newspaper, receives a few visitors, and alternates between rest, prayer, and work. Even Michael Lofton was disturbed by how Francis sounded. So it seems pretty clear to me that there's going to be a conclave this year to elect a successor to Francis. In that regard, today the Recognize and Resist publication, The Remnant, published an article by Robert Morrison asking, will the next conclave produce a pope for the Catholic Church or just a heretical bishop of Rome for the Synodal Church? Yeah, what if instead of a pope, they suddenly got some heretical bishop of Rome who presides over a synodal church? Hard to imagine, isn't it? Wait a minute. How would that be different from what they have now? Who's been running the Vatican II Church since 2013, if not a heretic calling himself the Bishop of Rome? I've put a link to that Remnant article in the show notes. It's a great read just for the comedic value. I'm sorry, it's comedy. Listen to this. Quote, with the strong possibility that we may have a papal conclave in the near future, many serious Catholics are contemplating the prospect of an openly heretical cardinal being elected to replace Francis. As disastrous as Francis's hostile occupation of the papacy has been, at least it seems that many of the cardinals at the 2013 conclave might not have known he was a heretic. This would probably not be the case at the next conclave. If Francis's allies succeed in advancing a man cut from the same heretical anti-Catholic cloth, everyone will have a fairly good sense of how catastrophic it will be. Unquote. And then Morrison goes into what should be done if that happens, and he envisions, faithful cardinals on the one side supported by serious Catholics, and on the other side, the false heretical pope with his heretical cardinals who supported him and their synodal church. Now, in addition to this bad theology, though, Morrison also seems to be afflicted with a denial of reality. He acts as if there were a good number of cardinals who think of other cardinals as open heretics. Really? Who are they? Does Morrison seriously think that of all the cardinals eligible to vote in conclave, that even a single one of them would be willing to say that Cardinal so-and-so is a public heretic and not a Catholic and ineligible for the papacy? Give me a break. Not on your life. But that is the dream world that so many semi-trads live in, because it's a world shielded from the stark reality of the Vatican II Church because they spend their time only within their own bubble, their own echo chamber. Right? They go to their Indult or SSPX Mass, they study Bishop Schneider's catechism, they pray their rosaries, and they read The Remnant, Catholic Family News, and Peter Kwasniewski. And they watch Taylor Marshall and listen to Father Ripperger. There's just no room and no time for looking at what the Vatican II Church actually is, says, and does. But that would be important since, for as long as they acknowledge the Novus Ordo popes as true popes, the Vatican II Church is their church, like it or not. In any case, I suspect Francis will be around for a few more weeks, and then he'll be called by God to render an account of his stewardship. By the way, Vaticanist Giuseppe Nardi says that Francis's pneumonia is only a complication of his real condition. It's not what's killing him. Instead, Nardi writes, Bergoglio is in the final stages of colon cancer. Now, I mention this because Nardi, whose German language blog I've been reading for years, is not someone to make stuff up, nor to spread unreliable information. So, if he says it, it's not without serious foundation. Meanwhile, Vaticanist Piero Schiavazzi says, quote, "Whatever is going on in this hospital room, Francis is not someone who wants to die in a place like this. He is a man of the field hospital. He wants to die in the field," unquote. And that may be so. But then again, when, how, and where he dies is not up to him. It's up to God. And with this voice recording of March 6th, we may very well have heard the last public words ever of Jorge Bergoglio, if that was, in fact, his real voice. But regardless of whose voice it was, one thing is certain: it definitely wasn't the voice of the Pope. TRADCAST Express is a production of Novus Ordo Watch. Check us out at tradcast.org, and if you like what we're doing, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution at novusordowatch.org/donate.